All right, guys. So the next topic that I want to discuss is ego, just what it is, and just how having a form of ego is essentially a bad thing. Like, you hear ego be tossed around in the niche or just in general so much, and a lot of people really don't understand what ego means. Ego, people think ego is actually a bad thing, but no, it can be actually a very good thing, or it could just be something that's there. So ego is essentially your self-image, right? It's how you portray yourself. And essentially, when that ego is too high, or it's at a level where it begins to blind you, that's where it's bad, right? When people say, oh, he has an ego, well, that just means that he's full of himself, right? And that's a trait that you should never have. Not even in trading, just life in general. That's just not a trait you should have, right? You always have to, in my opinion, you always have to be humble about anything you do, because just as easily as you got something, you can lose it, right? Just as easily as you made $500, you can lose it, right? And essentially, I want you to aim to control that ego, because I promise you, you're going to feel some type of way when you start seeing some real money in your life. Everybody goes through it. Everybody goes through it. There's no exceptions. Um, and essentially, what I mean by controlling your ego is, I mean, you should never become overconfident in your abilities in this market, because the second you start becoming overconfident, you start missing out on certain things in your trading plan. You start, just being sloppy, and that could be the deciding factor on whether or not you either profit in a trade or even catch a trade by itself. So it's a trait that I've seen a ton of people go through this phase, and I went through this phase myself. Like, ask anybody that was in the previous mentorship before the course was actually released. Like, they saw me go through that phase, because not only was I helping them, but I was making, funds I have never seen in my life. And that brings out a certain character in you that a lot of people really, like, it's really hard to explain until you go through it. But that overconfidence is going to create a type of blindness, and that blindness will cause you to miss things, and that's where you can literally go from 100 to 0, right? And literally everything can go to shit in just as quick as you got up to where you were. And essentially, I don't want to keep ranting on about this, but all I ask is, you should remain humble no matter what. You're no better than anybody else, because you always got to remember that it doesn't matter how much money you trade, unless you're trading millions, billions. We're no different from the next trader. We're just all typical retail traders looking to make it in this industry. And once you understand that, once you really let that sink in, right, you learn to appreciate every little profit, even every loss. And that appreciation is what's going to drive you to continue to try to be better. And that's essentially what I want you guys to do, right? Create a positive environment around yourself, around the team, around just everybody in general, because how you do one thing is going to be how you do everything. And I hate to sound corny, but it's true, man. Like, just remain humble. Don't be that guy. I mean, even if you do want to be that guy, go for it. Like, I want to see you try it, because you're going to understand, you're going to learn the hard way. And maybe sometimes that's just how it should be done. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this one.